everyone, it's your girl, Dr. Tomi, better known as Ama. So welcome to the Wellness and Wahala podcast. For those of you tuning in for the first time, Wahala in Nigerian Pidgin English means issues and problems. So today we are going to be discussing the COVID-19 pandemic problem, the Wahala that is happening now. But I want to honor this episode for all of our frontline workers and say thank you for everybody at the front line, from respiratory therapists, nurses, doctors, laboratory technicians, public health scientists, epidemiologists that are on the front lines, that are basically behind the scenes, risking their lives every day to tackle this pandemic. And today I have a special guest. She's retired respiratory therapist. She's worked many decades, both in public and private hospital, government hospital, University of Chicago, and she has great experience in the field of respiratory therapy. And coronavirus, if you all do not know, is a respiratory virus. And common coronaviruses are SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome that we previously tackled, and MERS, Middle East respiratory syndrome. This current coronavirus, COVID-19, started in 2019 in Wuhan, China. Then it started rapidly spreading in the Asia region. It started as an epidemic and then is now all over the world. So now it's a pandemic. And the current statistics that are stated at the WHO website is that over 33,000 people have been confirmed ill of the over 400,000 people have become ill, positive of the COVID-19 virus, and about 16,000 people have become dead. That's the mortality rate. Once again, over 300,000 people have been confirmed ill because of the COVID-19 virus. That is the morbidity rate, and over 16,000 people, as of yesterday, March 24th, stated at the situation report the current statistics. And just to keep you up to date, this is not live data because they don't have rapid same-day testing and results. It takes a couple of days, in some cases weeks, to get results. So the numbers are actually higher. So I want to talk about some of the challenges and shortages of personal equipment, and some of the frontline workers, they not having enough staff. A lot of them, they're overworked, having to work 16, 18, 24-hour shifts, having shortage in ventilators. So today we have the pleasure of having Mrs. Mercy Amu-Ademokun, that is a respiratory therapist. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, so can you tell us how long you have worked in the field of respiratory therapy?
I worked as a respiratory therapist for 22 years.
Okay, so over 2 decades. And when you used to work, for example, in the emergency room, and do you think that, the current status of equipment that they have, do you think that they were equipped for a pandemic such as this?
Nobody can be really, really ready for any situation like this. Yes, we do have shortages in a lot of hospitals. Especially the small hospitals. They only have ICU of maybe not more than 6 or 8 rooms, and with that type of ICU number, that will be a lot of a problem, if people are being taken to those hospitals because there is no room at the bigger hospitals. So currently, most hospitals I don't think they have most of the equipment or supplies for what is needed for this situation right now, for the current wind of storm or of sickness that is going around. They do not have, even
enough
prior
supplies, yes.
to this time, they don't have enough.
exactly
products and all that stuff. But even now, it becomes worse.
Exactly.
Because they really don't have, number one, room enough to accommodate those patients. Number two, they don't have enough supplies. A lot of
the personal protective equipment, the
have
PPEs,
enough supplies.
yes.
They don't have masks. They don't have the body wear or the boots that you wear as if you're going to surgery to prevent you catching or contaminating anything with your shoes or your clothes.
So, what do you say as a call to action to a lot of our leaders and in tackling pandemics? Because this is not the first pandemic or epidemic that we've had. Just like I mentioned before, we've had SARS, we have MERS, we've even had Ebola most recently, so many other epidemics and outbreaks. So, and it's not going to probably end at this one. So since the beginning of time, even before us, that we were here, over centuries, we've always had some type of disease and outbreak. So isn't it better for us to start preparing, both as a private sector, not even also relying on government, but having our own equipment, and even if you have a surplus, I would rather us have more. So even if our nation comes to the point that we have too much, personal protective equipment and supplies, then we could actually donate to other developing countries and nations. That's what makes us, a big nation and a humanitarian nation, that we can pay it forward for other people that are in need. But another thing is that a lot of these frontline workers are very underpaid and unappreciated. So what do you say about salary and in these type of pandemics, when people are working the extra mile and extra hours, about bonuses and extra pay? Is what would you recommend?
What I would recommend for people that are currently working, doctors, nurses, lab tech, radiologists, and all that stuff, they are directly involved with patients like this, and I would, if I were still working or if I'm in that position to do some recommendation, I would recommend either to the hospital where I'm working or to the government that what they need to do is they are trying to protect and prevent this disease from going further, from spreading. Then they should be able to, we don't know how long it's going to be, but they should be able to compensate them for the time spent, for putting their lives on the line, for putting their families' line on the line. They should be able to compensate them for giving them a temporary accommodation while this epidemic is still spreading, and they don't have the accurate number,
and they're working long hours.
People don't want to come in.
Right.
Some people might say, "Oh, something happened, we are not coming in," or we suspect something,
they call off.
And then there is shortage of people coming in. We just had that a nurse died in Georgia, by contacting this thing from a patient. So they should be able to, first of all, think about the front runners that are taking care of this patient, the doctors, the nurses, especially the respiratory therapists.
Yes.
Now that before, nobody recognizes respiratory therapy. Nobody really knows what we are doing. Nobody talks about pulmonary doctors.
Yes.
Nobody talks about respiratory therapists.
Right.
Everything is nurses.
No.
Even though
it's a team.
It's a teamwork.
Right.
And this type of pandemic now is directly involved with respiratory.
Exactly.
Not nurses.
Exactly. And they are not trained in blood gas and those machines.
And for you to say everybody needs a ventilator, there should be what they should be doing now is looking for a non-invasive way to deal with this situation, rather than the invasive one, looking for respirator, tearing them open and all that stuff. There should be something to be done. There are procedures, there are tests that could be done to determine whether they really do need the ventilator. Because we are short of breath, doesn't mean you need to end up on the ventilator.
Yes.
There are other things that could be done.
So,
there are other methods that could be used. So do we have all those equipment?
Yes.
Because
it's a team of
support, like
right.
a non-rebreather, like a Venturi mask, like there are so many things, nebulizer treatment,
exactly.
And all that stuff. And for them now to say we need 400 or 40,000 ventilators in one hospital or in one state, what about the piping oxygen?
Right.
What about the air?
Right.
Ventilator don't just work on its own.
There's other supportive equipment that goes with the ventilator.
And there are other things that needs the ventilator to work, to be able to help.
And they have a shortage
patient,
of that too.
And those are the first things they should be considering.
Yes.
So how are we going to do this? If they don't have the piping oxygen and air, then they should be able to have the oxygen tank that will last up to like 8 hours.
Right.
Then it is more work for the respiratory therapist.
Because you're the one
you are going to be
administering.
You are going to be pushing the tank. You are going to be doing a lot of suctioning, which means the respiratory therapist is more at risk at this time.
Yes.
Because you cannot do all those without touching the patient, without doing something or whatever.
Right.
And they are saying there is no mask, there is no gloves, which are the important tools that the respiratory therapy needs for them, and then the body mask that you need to wear.
Right.
We need those.
Protective
respiratory
uniforms,
therapy especially need all those for them to be able to do that. And compensating, increasing their salary would be a good thing.
Bonuses, time and a half.
Now,
if you're working
respiratory therapists
shifts.
are coming to be recognized. Nobody recognizes the work of a respiratory therapist. And I'm so glad that the nation all over the world now knows the importance of a respiratory
and even
therapist.
Public health. So that's what we're all
and public health.
And public health, because it's public health medicine specifically, is dealing with, that's clinical. You're dealing with the patients one-on-one. Maybe you might go to the doctor once a year when you have your physical, but public health deals with everybody at any specific time. We're trying to keep the world safe. We're trying to keep our nation and our people safe from infectious disease, from chronic disease. We have constant research. We're lobbying as a stakeholder engagement officer, and I'm advising ambassadors and even ministers of health when I work overseas, as a former diplomat. So it's extremely important that we honor all of the frontline heroes. Everybody. It takes, as they say in Africa, it takes a village, It takes all of us doing our part as frontline heroes and workers to really tackle this pandemic. But if you just focus on one key area, just the doctors or just the nurses, and you forget all the other people, but even all the way to the cleaning staff, even to the cleaner, the cleaners that clean, and from when they go from one patient to the next, and they're the ones that are making the beds in the hospitals, even for the person that does the intake, the blood, the administrator and everything, the person that is actually collecting the data in the system, the live data. So once it goes to the lab, then somebody has to put it in the system. Then somebody has to interpret that data. Then somebody has to analyze that data. Then you have to report it to the national database. Then you have to report it to the global database. So sometimes that even takes longer, especially if you don't have rapid live tests, and you don't even have enough technicians and test kits even available. As you said, one of the things that we're having now is the challenges of supplies and equipment. Not just personal protective equipment, but even just general supplies of, if cleaning supplies in the hospital, do you have enough cleaning supplies? Things like that. So people should not wait until there's an emergency to now start panicking. You actually spend more when you're reactive. It's better to be preventive and smart. That you always used to say to us when we were in school, prevention is better than cure. Screening saves lives. You understand? If you don't prevent and you don't do the steps that you need in advance, because this is probably not going to be the last pandemic or epidemic and outbreak, but we can learn. There's a lot of lessons that we can learn, to prevent this type of high mortality and, and death rate in the future. So thank you so much for being on our podcast. I honor you. I salute you, my mom. I've always appreciated you. I know you used to work double shifts. You'll work in one hospital in the morning and then you'll switch to another hospital as a single mom. It is not easy. So a lot of those frontline workers, a lot of them are also single mothers. They're leaving their children at home. It is not easy, you all. So I salute my mom. Big ups to you. God bless you. Good health, long life, and prosperity, length of days, and peace. I decree and declare for you and all the frontline workers that lay down their lives. And a fun fact, my mom is also a deaconess, and she's also the chef. And she has a cookbook on Amazon called Tomiti Cookbook. And this is a time of self-distancing. A lot of people are staying at home, teleworking. Self-care is important. Good nutrition is very important in regards to public health. Even when they find good treatment for this virus, an antiretroviral to suppress the virus, it's really good to get good nutritious food. And she has a wonderful Nigerian cookbook that has nutritious food filled with vegetables and fruits. And, one of my favorite is egusi, or obono soup with the okra, and cassava and eba. So the Tomiti Cookbook, where can people buy it if they wanted to get part of your Tomiti Cookbook? And Tomiti, why did you name your cookbook Tomiti? This month of March is actually National Nutrition Month in the U.S. So what was the reason why you named your Nigerian cookbook Tomiti?
I used the names of my daughters. They are two first initials to name the cookbook.
So Tomi, Muyiwa, and Titi.
It was named after the names of my children.
Thank you. So you can find it on Amazon. And for a random fan who likes and shares and writes a great review and leaves comments on our podcast and on this episode, I will be giving away one free copy of the Tomiti Cookbook. So I know a lot of people are panicking at this time, but I would say that, just stay up to date with the facts. Go to the cdc.gov website, who.org, the World Health Organization website to stay up to date on what you can do on your own. Personally, wash your hands, keep your good hygiene, and keep the peace, not panic, and keep the faith and not fear. And one scripture that I want to leave you with today, usually I give you a proverb of the week, but I think, we need scripture at this time that we're facing this pandemic, COVID-19. Be anxious about nothing, but in everything by prayer and petition and thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Philippians 4:6. So do you have any last words for our audience, Mom?
Thank you for having me, and I hope you'll be able to gain something from the discussion of today, and may the Lord bless you real good.
God bless you and all of the frontline workers that are on the front line of this epidemic. Even those that work at the grocery stores, that work at different pharmaceutical companies and labs, trying to work and to get a cure and to research and working on the clinical trials. Everybody, every single person, even if it's the driver that is taking, samples and taking them to the lab, everybody is valuable. We all are a team. It takes a village. So salute all of you. Big ups to all of you. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. And please, and I'm wishing you no wahala this week. Peace and blessings.